All righty. All righty, righty. We are live. Hey, everyone. No, it's not Epic Cash Live on Friday. It is Wednesday, and it's noon on Wednesday. And today we have a fireside chat with really the two founders of Epic Cash, Max Freeman, he's founder, and then the chief tech engineer is Todd Lewis. Both are with me right now. And
I don't claim to be a co-founder. Max founded it, and I was just along for the ride.
You were along for the ride.
Yeah, I actually did find it. I was walking along the side of the road, and there it was.
And
so that is literally correct.
So I'm setting the table, guys. I'm going to keep us in between the fairway here, because I intend for this to be one of the most important live streams that I've ever done, we've ever done, because we are at a point right now where there's going to be a great pivot of awareness about Epic Cash. So if you are new here, if you are a crypto savvy individual, we welcome you. If you are just crypto curious and want to learn more, we welcome you. And of course, all of our amazing community members, as always, we welcome you. Today is a live stream to where I wanted to get Max and Todd on the same live stream to be able to talk about personal autonomy. And I believe that personal autonomy comes through superior tech plus privacy. And there's a problem in this world, especially from a cryptography standpoint, of being able to have true personal autonomy. You can have great tech out there, but if you don't have privacy, there becomes an issue. So I wanted to kind of rewind all the way back to the beginning and get a little history lesson from Max and Todd and talk about A, their backgrounds, B, the genesis of Epic Cash, and C, ultimately work through what Epic Cash is, what problems does it solve, and then we're going to talk about the future. We're going to try to do this all in 1 hour to keep it nice and succinct. But before we start, I just want to note one thing. Before you can solve the problem, you have to understand the problem. So today we're going to learn about the problem of the financial system, and then we're going to unpack the solution with these two special guests. Todd and Max, I'm just going to ask each of you to quickly, briefly give us your backgrounds. Todd Lewis, you go first.
I'm a geek. What do you want to know?
I want to know. Obviously, you're a great athlete. You outswum 28 million other competitors to your mother's ovum. But let's don't go back that far, Todd. Tell us about your cryptography experience.
Yeah. So I'm part of a very narrow window of a generation before cryptocurrencies, where cryptography was extremely important to us. So through a confluence of government regulations and patents, as I was coming up in the technology industry in the early 90s, cryptography was forbidden fruit. The algorithms were patented, and you had to license them. And there was very little available documentation on it. And then two things happened in the mid-90s, which were first, the patents expired on Diffie-Hellman and then RSA, the two big public key cryptography algorithms. And the second is that Bruce Schneier, God bless him, wrote the book Applied Cryptography. And it was 300 pages of a portal to another world, where we could all of a sudden have access to these formerly exotic technologies that you had to have a government license to do and whatnot.
Wow.
And the government still kind of held on to crypto regulation through the 90s, and the Clinton administration tried to regulate crypto. But what they pretty quickly realized was you've got to repeal the First Amendment pretty much in its entirety in order to stop people from having conversations like, when you take two numbers and raise one to the power of the second one, the resulting number is hard to factor. That's just a mathematical fact. And unless you're going to outlaw people making that observation and teaching it to other people, you're going to have a difficult time stopping the technical understanding of cryptography from permeating the universe.
Mm.
So it was a great time, and I became fascinated with crypto systems. I did a lot of work with Kerberos. That was important early in my career. Kerberos was a distributed secure computing system from MIT. And just did a lot of cryptography and network security. And then when cryptocurrencies came out, it was like magic. It was great.
Wow. So
I was part of that generation that when cryptocurrencies happened, I happened to already know how cryptography worked.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that certainly helps a lot in terms of trying to make sense of it.
Good. Now you spent a little time on Wall Street as well, right? Before you went to Brazil?
Yeah. I mean, we've all done things that we have to do. You know.
You have to pay the bills. You like living in a shoebox in New York City. You had to get that experience out of the way.
Yeah. Well, and also learning about finance and how finance works, which it was great. I tell people being a computer nerd on Wall Street is like selling peanuts at Yankee Stadium. You're not actually on the field playing baseball, but you get a great view every day. So
so then you ended up going down to Brazil and you started your own company, Brick Abode, right? And I believe you have about 40 engineers right now working with you.
Around that, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Max Freeman, can you give us a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah. So
you're echoing.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. I'm 44 now. I technically retired 6 years ago. Ha ha ha! I've never worked so hard in my life. After that, but probably averaged, I don't know, 110 hours a week, 724, 365. Since I just discovered this epic vision would be possible. So going back into ancient prehistory, I grew up in Silicon Valley. Started a business called Toner.com Group in my dorm room at Stanford, dropped out after 2 years. I proceeded to build kind of a mini empire in that industry involving around a dozen different pieces in as many countries. By the time I handed it off, it had over 100 staff, and I kind of didn't have to work there anymore. So my intent was to focus on family and read books and catch up on sleep and stuff. But I fell in love with crypto. That business is a consumables or commodities trading firm focused on IT consumables. And so crypto was a very natural fit during the ICO boom of 2017, 2018. Buy it from here, sell it there, information symmetry, asymmetries, arbitrage, all that type of stuff. So I was kind of doing the equivalent of Todd's, things that the Goldman and Standard Chartered guys did on finance with bonds and stuff. I was doing that with around 100,000 different consumable commodities for printers and copiers. So turned a few pennies into nickels, into dimes, into quarters, into, oh my God, this is real. You can actually go spend it. And then of course it all fell apart in the 2018 meltdown. A lot of that was regulatory driven. And so in around mid 2018, how what is currently Epic came together was I realized that in open source, everybody has access to everyone else's innovation, and the long-term differentiators for success are not fancy tech, because anybody can have that. Anything successful, everybody will use, but it's community, it's brand, it's focused execution, and so on. And I realized that there was an opportunity to really reimagine the whole, not just money system, but also currency and the financial system built on that. Seemed crazy. Pretty much nobody believed that it would even be possible, but we put the initial white paper together for the EUSD Epic Vision on December 2018 on Bitcoin Talk. And a few hardy souls said, hey, that'd be pretty cool. Let's start working on that. And so, people were flying around, meetings on whiteboards, stuff like that. Todd and I linked up in early 2019. Mimblewimble had just come out of the lab with 2 implementations called Grin and Beam. We ended up deciding to go based on the Rust-based Grin code base as a basis for Epic. And so essentially the ingredients were there out there in the world. GitHub has a world of wonders. And we said, if we assemble these in the right way into a tasty recipe, we might really have something here. So then in April 2019, we launched the Epic testnet. We launched the Epic mainnet in September 2019. It was a real milestone for the industry in terms of regulatory compliance with the no ICO, no pre-mine, no VC, not a corporation, pure free software model. We really had to spend a lot of time working more on that side. The regulatory stuff, I sure spent a lot more time with lawyers that year than I did with Todd. So then we launched it. Nobody cared. I think our market cap was 50 grand, 30 grand in March of 2020. Kind of like the bleakest moment. But the beautiful thing about proof of work and limited supply and extreme censorship resistance with Epic, which Epic does have, is that you can't really kill it. And so as long as a few people care, the network will survive. And so we caught many gusts of wind over the intervening 2 years. We launched Epicentral DAO, represented by the ECR token, which isn't out yet, but it will be soon, in July of 2021. And so now today, the Epic blockchain protocol is running in 121 countries, 2,000 cities. The last time we checked, it has about half as many nodes as Bitcoin Core, 4 times as many as Monero, 8 times as many as Litecoin. And Todd and I and you are among 300 volunteers for Epicentral DAO in 70 countries.
Cool. So I have the Epic Cash white paper right here, and I'm just curious, Max, was your goal to create faster, better, cheaper, private form of financial payments? What was the genesis? Why? I mean, Bitcoin was already out there. I mean, that solved it all, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the quest for superior money. Money needs to serve 3 functions: store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account. And
is that called the trilemma?
I'm not sure if it's called that. There's something called the Blockchain Trilemma.
Yeah, what is the blockchain trilemma?
Yeah, so you can have security, scalability, or decentralization. Pick 2.
Okay, and does Epic Cash solve for that trilemma? It does.
I believe so.
And that was part of your original design or your vision.
Really, I'm not a tech guy. I can barely put toast in my toaster, much less program it. So I rely on Todd and Diego and the many other geniuses that we have for that type of stuff. I got into crypto from precious metals. As I built my businesses, I really took a large hit in the 2008 financial crisis when my bank failed, and it took me years to get out of that. And then various other, financial legerdemain on behalf of the banks over the years, death by 1,000 cuts. And so I really came into to Bitcoin, and what was then just Bitcoin, now what I call Bitcoin Core, or BTC. Back then it was just one network. In the summer of 2016 as a better gold. I said, okay, if I look at the fundamental properties of money, this thing has them in many ways and better than gold, and the risk reward is better. And I'm kind of late to the party because I was too dim to wake up to the message until it was already $1,000, and I had to make up for lost time. So I didn't personally really focus too much on the blockchain trilemma part. At that point, I had never even heard of Ethereum until I think January 2017, something like that. But I knew that money and currency need to perform 3 functions: store of value, medium of exchange, unit of account. And in 2019, before we launched Epic, we realized that Bitcoin Core had the store of value property optimized at the expense of medium of exchange. because it can only do 350,000 transactions a day. In December 2017, the fees got up to $81. So that was a real wake-up call as far as, wow, this thing can't be used for coffee at Starbucks and never will be. And also the threats on the horizon, as far as censorship resistance, it was already starting to become apparent there. Oh, tainted coins and OFAC compliance and 6 hops from a dark web. We're not going to accept these. And also the scarcity was undermined with the futures markets. I was day trading crypto back then and quite successfully. And as soon as the CME futures came in, it was like a disturbance in the force. All of a sudden, the market didn't behave the same. And I just backed away. I said, wow, this is now the same corrupt casino run by the big guys behind the scenes as I see in the stock market. I stopped trading. I was trading stocks in my dorm room on a 56K modem when I was 13 years old. And I stopped doing it because I realized I was the dumb money. I read a book called Where Are the Customers' Yachts? And realized that
I'm going to interrupt because I really want us to get through a whole lot of questions. All right, Todd Lewis. So Max came to you with these concepts, right? And can you kind of just share with us what your thoughts were when these concepts were first introduced to you, and then how you and Max interacted to be able to create something special?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I did was sat down and learned about Mimblewimble, because I knew very well the anonymity problem with Bitcoin and almost all cryptocurrencies. And I looked at the privacy coins, but the engineering, it was pretty clear to me that the privacy algorithms weren't good enough yet.
And one of those privacy algorithms is ZK Snarks, right?
That's one of them, yeah.
One of them.
They were too complicated. They were just too complicated. For if you're doing something that's not very important, you can have a complicated solution. But when you're doing something important, it's really, really much better to have a simple solution. For reasons we've discussed before, Uncle. A simple solution you can actually understand well enough to have confidence that it's correct.
Right. And Mimblewimble is a simple solution that solves what?
It solves the fundamental requirement of money that people don't want. People want to have control over how much of their financial life they disclose to other people.
Okay.
And we know that's a strong requirement of money because it's been true historically for thousands of years.
Right.
We have commercial records going back to the advent of written records. The very first use of written records in human civilization was for commercial purposes. And so we strongly know that's a requirement that people have for money. No one's ever chosen to use a form of money that puts all their transactions out in the public for their business partners and counterparties and whatnot to be able to see everything they do until Bitcoin. And the only reason Bitcoin did it is at the time we didn't have a solution. And Mimble was a fundamental breakthrough on. But
Bitcoin surely identified that problem as technology advanced and solved for it, right?
They identified it, and it's mentioned in the white paper, and it's noted as a problem that needs to be solved, and they didn't let it stop them. And they went ahead without a solution. So
currently today, Bitcoin is a surveillance chain. I mean, you can see everything. So if you provide me a Bitcoin address and I send you $50, let's say, I literally, now that I have your address, I can go in there and imagine it. We're talking about a bank account, right? I could, if I paid you a $50 check, if it was like Bitcoin, I could go into the bank and ask them, hey, can you please tell me about all of Todd Lewis's transaction? How much does he have?
It's like everybody who's ever sent you a wire transfer all of a sudden can read all of your bank statements.
Yes, bingo.
And sorry to interrupt, Uncle, sure. But it's worse than that, because you can then say, oh, Todd, you got money from this place. Give me their bank statements. Where did they get their money from? Oh, let me check there. You can follow everything about everyone's money.
So I'm hearing out there that privacy should not be mission critical, because if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't have anything to hide. And my response to that is if you're going to go take a dump in an airport, which would you rather have, a transparent door or a solid door? I think I'd choose the solid door, even though I'm not doing anything nefarious except go to the bathroom.
And it's not even a theoretical question anymore, because we have hard experience with this. Peaceful protesters in Canada had their Bitcoin locked up by the government because the government disapproved of their peaceful protest.
Yes, that's correct. They did not give them a parking ticket or a honking ticket. They actually seized their assets.
And locked them out of the financial system, including Bitcoin.
And didn't at least one person lose their employment?
Oh yes, absolutely.
I think one lady also lost her home as part of this.
So what makes Epic Cash special then from a privacy standpoint?
Mimblewimble is the solution.
Okay. So for those who
asked me, when Max came to me with these ideas, what did I see? What I saw was Mimblewimble is a solution to this problem. Okay. And Mimblewimble at this current moment in time is the best solution to this problem. Has been for the past 5 years. Nothing else has come close.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right here, because there is a very, very influential, meaningful service out there called the Crypto Vigilante. And they say that Mimblewimble is nowhere nearly as fungible as Monero. What say you, Todd Lewis?
A grimace is worth 1,000 words.
Have they read the Monero white paper? Here's a question. If the Monero algorithm is so good, then why do they require 3 different layers of shell games, one layered on top of the other, in order to achieve this magical level of privacy that they allegedly have? The Monero is, and I'm glad they did Monero. Monero was an important advance in history, now obsolete, right? Monero is an important advance and are trying to think through these issues, but they have to layer one solution on top of another solution to build this Rube Goldberg, jury-rigged, duct tape and baling wire approach to synthesizing privacy. And when I look at it with engineering eyes, I see a complicated machinery without very strong assurances that the end result is especially safe. Right.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel that Monero is quantum resistant?
I don't think so. I don't see any evidence.
It's random X.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that, because I think this is really important, because I think that AI and future proofing are really mission critical to the future of any cryptocurrency that is private by default.
I'll let Todd speak to the technicals of structured lattice algorithms and how they're different, and why we chose dilithium crystals as our solution to that, which we do have working in the lab already, by the way. We're going to roll that out on ECK first to minimize potential disruption to Epic itself, which must be absolutely stable. But from a market perspective, the differentiator there is that we chose to use polyphasic proof of work. The original name for it in the technical white paper from 2019 is feijoada, inspired by putting beans in a bottle. I'll let Todd tell that story, how we rotate through the different algorithms. But essentially, Monero and every other crypto out there, except for 2, I think, that, they're kind of like not really, they're kind of more niche propositions, and they don't use it in the same way we do. So it's not exactly apples to apples. They are single algorithm chains where changing them is a massive, massive ordeal. Imagine changing the engines of both, turbofans on a 747 while it's in flight, that type of thing. But Epic has the ability to slot in any arbitrary number of algorithms. Currently, we're running 3, and if I had to guess, 5 years from now, we'll probably have 10 or more.
Now, is that called multi-factor proof of work?
Well, multi-algorithm or polyphasic.
Okay, I'm trying to dumb it down for those like me. And I kind of understand multi-factor proof of work, but I think we're talking
Instead
about
of having one algorithm, you have multiple algorithms.
yeah, and the benefit of that is
The benefit of that is if you're going to attack, there are two benefits. Number one, if you're going to attack Epic with a 51% attack, then you need to do so for multiple algorithms, which means you need both a huge CPU mining pool and a huge GPU mining pool.
okay.
Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is because the system is architected from the beginning to support multiple algorithms, we have much more flexibility to add new algorithms. And this means that as the cryptography landscape changes over time, it's much easier for us to roll with the changes in cryptography and to keep ourselves up to date and have the Epic chain survive, even if individual proof of work algorithms fall by the wayside because of technical advances.
So it's really about the safety of the blockchain, right? Just keeping it unstoppable, correct? And so when we get to the point to where we can mine on our mobile phones, does that mean that like right now, I think we have 48% GPU, 48% CPU, 4% ASICs. Does that mean that those percentages will go down a little bit to make some room for mobile mining?
No, mobile mining is not a different algorithm. It's just a different place that you can run the algorithms.
But don't you think somebody's CPU and GPU is just going to clean up on the power of a mobile device? Wouldn't it be?
These are choices that we face.
Okay.
Okay. The point here is Epic has choices, and other chains, for example, Monero has no choices. Right.
Does Bitcoin have
lock in their choice at the beginning, and it's practically impossible to change?
Okay. Does Bitcoin have a choice?
No.
What about layer 2? Does that solve for?
But it's a different question.
Okay.
We're talking here about the proof of work.
Okay. All right, that's the proof of work. Can you tell me about our emission curve? And
hold on, Uncle.
Sure,
there are multiple other benefits. Todd mentioned 2, but I've got many more. So number 1 is energy efficiency. ESG is hot on many people's minds.
Great. Yes.
Okay, so it's energy efficient in that when 48% of the time CPUs are competing for blocks on RandomX, and the GPUs are on standby, consuming very little power, and so are the cuckoo miners. So 52% of the network is not consuming electricity when 48% is. That's the case in 2 of the algorithms. When Cuckoo is running at 4%, then 96% of the network is on standby mode. So overall, we save over half of the energy costs versus, say, BTC, where all the network is running flat out 100%. Utilities, incidentally, part of why places like New York have implemented proof of work mining bans is because it places strain on the grid. It's not designed for flat out 100% of the time, and they have to upgrade the equipment. So it's more energy efficient because of the standby mode. Also, one of our future algorithms is called proof of space-time that works by storing data on hard drives. That's about 99% more energy efficient without compromising the other good properties. That blockchain trilemma, proof of stake is not the same economically and in terms of centralization, whereas proof of space-time is. So we gain on energy efficiency. We're also greener overall because if you look at the case of BTC as an example, there's millions of pounds of electronic scrap waste that needs to go into landfills every year because you have to upgrade the gear. And in our case, we can pull in different hardware types whose primary duty is something else. So if you have a video render farm and James out in Georgia, he he was mining Epic when he didn't have a video render job. He already had the cards, he already had the electricity, he already had the footprint, and this is just pure incremental yield. So we get to target the distribution. This is apropos that we're moving to emission curve in a second, because if you look at who got the coins in these other networks, it's determined by who has access to the gear. If you have a friend that works at Bitmain, then you're 3 months ahead and you probably got triple the number of coins in those crucial first month. So our distribution is more egalitarian, and that drives the business side through the network effects as well. The final point is that GPU manufacturers have for years been voiding warranties of gamers that mine on their cards.
Oh, wow.
Because it wears them out. And so if you're only mining ProgPow 48% of the time, it gets a chance to rest, cool down. You don't have to have all this abstruse fan equipment. People are immersing ASIC miners in vats of mineral oil to save 2% on cooling. And those are all problems and costs that you don't have in our approach.
Wow. Okay. What are elliptic curves and why do they matter in blockchain technology? And the reason why I'm asking is we throw around a lot of these, like everybody knows. And so I really, because this is so integral to, our design, I just kind of want to unpack the definitions of terms.
Elliptic curves are a mathematical structure, and it is something that someone with like a really solid high school mathematical education can understand, because they're just algebraic. It's just a polynomial, and you can look at the what you do is you do the equation for an ellipse, and it draws a graph on the plane. And what you do is you start moving from one point to another point on the graph. And elliptic curves have this really nice property that they commute. So you take 2 points and intercepts in a third point, and then you end up like doubling back, and you're able to move around this complex space in these very non-deterministic kind of ways. So elliptic curves were an important innovation in the 1990s to get more mathematical power out of the simple mathematical structures used in the 70s for especially for Diffie-Hellman. And they made key sizes smaller. They made some of the math nicer. But then for our purposes, they were really well suited for some of the mathematical challenges in building the newer privacy algorithms. And that's why they're important. And there are good videos on the internet that show you the shape of the elliptic curve and the rules for, as you're advancing through different rounds of computation on the elliptic curve, how it doubles back, how you deal with the exceptions and whatnot. And if you're motivated, you can go watch it and make sense of it. But I don't know that people need to in any kind of critical way, right? Most people can get by hand waving at elliptic curves.
All right, let me ask this.
And I would note, I was just one of them.
Okay. And here I thought elliptic curves was a strip bar.
That actually is not a bad name for a strip bar.
What is Nakamoto consensus?
Max, you want to
handle that one, Todd? Yeah,
I?
so that is longest chain rule and proof of work. So if two people are saying, imagine like nodes need to talk to each other on a peer-to-peer basis and decide, okay, you have version A of the chain, I have version B, which one is right? And so Nakamoto consensus means that the way that we're going to determine that not based on trust. We don't have to go check from someplace and go, oh, that's the truth. We can check for ourselves, because the network consensus rules are that the chain that has accumulated the largest amount of proof of work, which is the measure of the electricity destroyed to create it, you would have to redo all of that electricity input and do it before the rest of the network to race ahead. That's what makes Epic economically secure, or one of the reasons. And the other is longest chain rule. So if I'm on block 121 and you're on block 120, then we're going to go with mine. And so it's very simple, but with those two rules, you really cover all the tricky stuff.
Is that you? Did we borrow that from BTC? Do they have that too? Or
that was probably the single most important innovation that Bitcoin represented.
Yeah.
Was a way to have a distributed ledger that was not based on trust, but instead was based on physics.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and that's actually, if you read the white paper on the very first page in the abstract, it says that that Bitcoin was created as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system to solve the problem of double spending without relying on trust.
Hey, let me ask this. JP Morgan said gold is money, everything else is credit. Max, is Epic Cash credit?
Yeah, there's a great meme that has been floating around with Andrew Jackson, and then it's my quote and my byline. It says, "Epic is money, everything else is credit." So no, Epic is not credit. I define money as something that in itself has value to others and is readily spendable and does not depend on the performance of any magical somebodies, as Yoga would say. So if I have a Soviet ruble, and then the Soviet Union goes away, then that's no longer valid. If I have a Federal Reserve note and Executive Order 14067 comes along and says those are no longer valid, then I'm kind of screwed. If I have a lump of gold, I can take that anywhere and sell it. So the further you get out from unconfiscatable sovereign money that you can hold in your hand, that you can validate the integrity of yourself, you're really getting into more belief based systems. The origin of the word credit is from credere, from Latin, to believe. So you don't have to believe in anything to know that you have a gold coin in your hand.
And I think the comparison is interesting too, because when JP Morgan said that in the 1890s, I think it was true, although I would add super. But it's really interesting, the similarity of why. Why is gold money when credit is not? The reason is that gold has fundamental scarcity for reasons of physics. It takes energy to produce gold. There's a finite amount of it that can be mined economically. And those economics are very difficult to move the needle on. And if you do move the needle, it's because society actually has a higher demand for money. And the reason why I think if we had JP Morgan here today and he were drunk or under truth serum, that he would admit that Epic is money is Epic's, the belief in the scarcity of Epic is fundamentally the same as the scarcity of gold, which is physics, right?
Yeah.
It takes energy. In fact, what do we call the process of finding proof of work and creating new blocks for the blockchain? What do we call it?
You're talking to me. I don't know shit.
The people who sit there with computers finding solutions and trying to grab the reward. What do we call the process?
Mining.
There you go.
We call it mining. Why do we call it mining?
Because you mine gold.
You mine gold just like you mine Epic. You're expending energy to try to find something that's fundamentally rare. In this case, the maximal score solution to the proof of work problem. And because finding proof of work solutions is hard in the physical sense, it takes physical work. It consumes energy. Because of that, we have confidence that the block that has the highest proof of work score is the one that we should trust. And when we trust it based on that, we don't have to care where it comes from.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who did the mining. It's fundamentally a process that's going to lead to consensus emerging on the blockchain, transactions clearing honestly, and preventing double spend attack.
So go ahead, Max.
Yeah, sorry. I would also add, this is timely because of the Ethereum merge to proof of stake. You go on Twitter and the .eths are the kind of Ethereum equivalent of the laser-eyed maxis, equally misguided and ignorant in my belief. Proof of stake is not energy based. In order to create the solution to which block is valid, you do not need to invest energy. And you can go back and redo the entire history of the chain. Like if you buy someone's old keys from the network first started, like let's say you had an early Cardano whale and he died and you found his wallet, even if he sold his coins, if you have those seed words, you can do grinding attacks and other stuff to mess with it. So the cost to attack is lower, which changes the game theory dynamics of the behavior of the participants in the system, and also the incentives, risk reward, and so on. So I think it's very dangerous to say that apples and oranges and orangutans are close enough, good enough for government work. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, let me ask you this, because Executive Order 14067 was just passed and is going to be here in December. Central bank digital currencies. I believe there's a hidden agenda. I think that it is they'll try to get rid of cash.
What are they hiding?
Well, I think if they force the majority of the population to engage with the CBDCs, let's think about it. They're going to know what you're buying, right? These CBDCs are programmable. What could possibly go wrong? You could have countdown clocks on your money, use it or lose it. You could have account freezes and seizures based upon your political preference or whether you're a Canadian truck driver. Your money is absolutely not private. Guys, Epic Cash versus CBDCs. 3, 2, 1, go. Thoughts?
Well, borderlessness is one. So you used to be able to go to Russia and spend on your Amex card. Now you can't. You can't
or
send
Apple Pay
wire
or
transfers
Google
there.
Pay.
Or PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, every financial method in our side of the new Iron Curtain got turned off. So borderlessness is one. Composability, Epic can be used as an input as a money Lego in other systems. CBDC cannot. Interoperability, Epic can talk to other systems in a composable way. CBDC cannot. Openness, these networks are not open. Epic is a public network with privacy. CBDC is not public and does not offer privacy. Also trust minimization. Epic is as close to trustless as you can get. A lot of people would say trustless. I say trust minimized. And also secure. If you read the Project Hamilton white paper from the Boston Fed, it says basically, we can't promise you that 0 + 1 = 1 in this system just yet. You're going to have to trust us on that.
So
I would ask the question from the entirely different end of the spectrum. Okay. What's the benefit to the consumer of having a form of money that this cabal controls?
Nothing. This is all about watering the financial intermediaries, feeding them, right? Giving them more power. And I think that's one thing that I think about with Epic Cash. I'd love for both of your opinions on this are the financial intermediaries, once Epic Cash goes from undiscovered to discovered, are they going to be butthurt, and how might they try to stop us?
I mean, legal and regulatory, but they're going to run into the same problem as the crypto regulations of the 90s ran into, which is, when we put Epic Cash on a T-shirt, are you going to outlaw printing those? What lengths are you willing to go to stop free discourse in society, and especially about engineering and mathematics?
Well, I know one dude over in the UK was holding up a sign saying "Not my king," and they arrested him. So I guess paper is now illegal.
Yeah. So they'll try legal and regulatory stuff, and they'll try to put lots of speed bumps to the extent that they can. To me, that's all the more reason to be early instead of being late.
Mm-hmm. Max,
better a year early than a day late as the barriers go up.
Yeah, Max, is the SEC going to come tap us on the shoulder and say you're a security?
No, actually, the SEC will come to us and say, wow, you guys serve as a model. We wish other projects would have found a way to stay within the swim lanes and still be competitive and successful in the marketplace, as you guys did. Can you help us, give us some tips so that others can be like you? Because we're having to go kill all these people. We're still mopping up wounded. We're on the field dispatching wounded soldiers from the 2017 ICO wars. I mean, they just went after Dragon Chain. They don't have to waste their time doing stuff like that if everybody would just do it as we do. So no, the SEC is more of a long-term ally, as is the CFTC, than an adversary.
Hey, Max, you shared with me recently, great story, that you were having a conversation with somebody who's crypto savvy, who's into BTC, who once you really unpacked Executive Order 14067, they made the decision to pivot and go buy them some Epic, right?
Yeah, use it or lose it. So if you have physical cash, I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen because it's cloaked in secrecy. So make of that what you will. But let's work back from today. We're in September 2022. What has happened in recent living memory when countries have gone this way? So Israel recently outlawed cash payments over 6,000 shekels, which is about $4,500. The UK demonetized everything north of 20 pounds. So if you had a 50 or 100 pound note, it's suddenly no longer valid. You have X amount of time to come cash it in. But the biggest case is actually India. If you go back to last year when India demonetized everything north of 2,000 rupees, so a lot of people had cash and all of a sudden it was worthless. So let's say you had, 100,000 rupees. Well, you can only cash in, 10,000 or whatever per person. So there were like violent mobs of people outside of banks in India for weeks, if not months, as they raced to get their money in. And so it led to an industry of smurfing where like one rich guy would hire 500 poor people to stand in line and cash out his bills and in exchange for a cut. It's the equivalent, it's the monetary equivalent of Venezuelans standing in line for 2 hours for a bag of rice. So, we don't know what's going to happen, but that's what's been done in other places.
Well, and in the Indian example, thousands of people died from starvation because their money became worthless overnight.
Well, I want to share something with you, and Enrique, I want you to share this on Friday if you're able, but I don't know if you're going to be able to be on. But Max, you and Todd both know this. Elle McMurphy shared with us. Now this is about you having your cash with a financial intermediary, with a bank. There are risks other than it being a melting ice cube due to inflation. So Elle McMurphy wrote, my wife went to the bank today, top regional bank, to withdraw her private pension because we have to do some remodeling and don't want to sell Epic for this. While requesting the withdrawal, they told her that 1.6 of her principal can't be returned because one of the bank's investments defaulted on some payments, and they had to deduct this amount from all accounts. From all accounts. They did not notify her about this via email or a letter. The balance on her statement just changed. They also told her that if she wanted the bank to repay her 1.6%, she had to file some paperwork that takes about 6 to 12 months to process and had to leave the pension fund open. This is essentially a 1.6 bail-in. That's kind of the risk we're all
Can I tell you a funny story?
Sure.
In 2008, I was riding high because I was heavily short the stock market across the top.
You shorted it?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So you're the one that got my money.
my accountant had 180 clients that year, and I was the only one who made money that year. It was cool. But in the middle of that, I had a hefty chunk of cash in a money market fund at a bank, and my wife and I went and opened a second checking account, and we emptied the money market account into the checking account, and we structured it so that it was all under the FDIC limit, so the full amount was FDIC insured.
Okay.
And a manager at the bank called me up and said, "This transfer is highly irregular, and we demand that you move it back right now." And I said, "I beg your pardon?" He said, this is not the correct way to handle your money, and you need to put it back in the money market right now." I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. You send me an email with that demand, and what I'm going to do is I'm not going to move the money back, but instead I'm going to forward the email to the Wall Street Journal and tell them that there's a run on your bank and you're not able to meet your depository needs. How about we do that?"
and how quickly did he turn around and sheepishly
he hung up on me at that point.
Oh, that's
he was on to the next sucker that he could bully into taking deposits out of FDIC insured and put them back in the failing money market fund.
Gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I also wanted to add that in 2013, I think it was, in Cyprus, maybe 2014, but somewhere around there, about 10-ish years ago, the Cypriot banking system failed over the weekend, depending on which of the two major banking institutions you had your account with. There was either a 40% haircut or a 60% haircut. And that was kind of a trial run for the you'll own nothing and be happy set, because after that, that bail-in law became the law of the land in all G20 countries. So what happened in Honduras is one keystroke away. The machinery is already in place, and it was trial run 10 years ago. So people should not be surprised that is going to happen.
They did the same thing basically in Mexico in the 1980s. I mean, they did the same thing in the United States in the 1930s. None of this is new.
Nothing's new under the sun. So, Max, 20,000 cryptocurrencies. I've been at this for almost 2 years with Epic Cash covering this. I see all of the key positive attributes. It is just crystal clear to me that I'm in the right project and the right asset. How do we break through the noise? 20,000 assets out there, and we are still just so undiscovered.
Well, we haven't begun the fight. I'm working on the budgeting for Q3 and Q4, and there's 51 separate marketing tracks, about a dozen biz dev tracks, partnerships with other people to move the needle. So we live in a mobile world. There's 15.1 billion mobile devices. I think about 6 billion people have them. And so if you're desktop first, then you kind of lock yourself in there. But if you're mobile first, then everything you do applies to the desktop, and you never get a second chance at a first impression. And so if we started screaming from the rooftops, "Hey, we're here, use us, we're great," and then most people said, "Oh, well, that's too hard for me," they're frustrated and they give up, "I guess that blockchain stuff is not for me," then we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot. So we had a lot of work to do to make it easier. Still do. The Stack Wallet, stackwallet.com, is a major milestone in terms of usability. And so as we reach that inflection point of ease of use, that's really what unlocks the awareness building. If you have
72
Yeah,
hours,
I think
15 minutes.
Yeah, and as an example, so it used to be about 27 steps. If you were highly technically savvy, it took you probably a number of days and many hours, and reading like 50 pages of help guides and going to the help desk and stuff. So it used to be very difficult to set up a node. Now it comes with the 4.0 desktop GUI. So when you download the wallet, you are running a node.
Yep.
If you want to, of course, you can turn it off. But then there's another problem because it was 72 hours for the average time to download and sync and bootstrap the chain. That's no good. Oh, my computer is going to be running that whole time. Oh, I guess this blockchain stuff is too hard for me. So Todd and the boys figured out a way to compress that down to 17 minutes.
That's amazing, because I did the 72 hours.
Yeah. So one step at a time. The way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So we'll continue to make it faster, smoother, and easier. If one out of
better a year early than a day late.
Yeah. So if and also just in terms of like I know from e-commerce that if you have 100 happy customers, nobody bothers to give you a review. But if you have one unhappy customer, like everybody goes and bombs your ratings. And the difference between 5 stars and 4.7 really matters in today's world. And so if 1 out of 10,000 people had an issue, like, you had some issues, you reported that, and then they go and fix them. If 1 out of 10,000 people have an issue, then if 1 million people start using our stuff, we're going to have 10,000 pissed off people. So we got to get that rate from 1 in 10,000 frustrated people to 1 in 100,000. But that's still too much. Then we got to get it to 1 in 100,000. So it's just like taking layers, like going over the surface with sandpaper over and over to make it ever smoother.
Max, I know you have a podcast called The DNA of Bitcoin, and I believe you have 6 interviews that have been completed. When do you anticipate that series will actually be released so that people can start it's just going to be an amazing series.
Yeah, so we had Mark Cuban, Seyfedin Amous, Robert Breedlove, Chris Sullivan, Kurt Wilkert Jr., and most recently Andy Hoffman. It's a bit of a judgment call because I think it's going to be, frankly, embarrassing for some of these laser-eyed Maxis guy. I asked Andy Hoffman not to, throw him under the bus, but that's kind of like this looks kind of bad, because I asked him why he was so in love with Bitcoin, and he proceeded to tell me because it was private, fungible, censorship resistant, absolutely scarce, uncontrollable by governments. You didn't need a bank. I mean, he was repeating the talk track as if it were 20.
That's our key positive attributes right there.
Well, and then I, over the course of an hour and a half, I went through every point, like Columbo or a lawyer maybe, and I was just like, okay, number one assertion, you say that it's absolutely scarce, and then take them through, okay, but if I have a coin on Coinbase, is that the same economically as hodling it in my ledger? Yes. Okay. If I borrow a coin, if I'm a hedge fund, is that the same on my balance sheet as if I buy a coin? Okay, yes. So if a custodian fractionally reserves their supply, now you've had 2 coins. Isn't that a form of double spending? So you say it's absolutely scarce, but I've got research here that says there's 44 to 50 million paper BTC, not just the 19 on the network. So what do you say to that? And so like,
therein lies the rub, is that, and I kind of led the witness on that because people are asking about it, but I think you need to get, I would suggest 4 more interviews completed, and then release it when there's 10, and then release it like maybe 3 the first week and then 1 a week after that would be what I would suggest. And then you can go to 11 interview, 12th interview, whatever. But you're right. I think what's going to happen is when people start listening to that, they're going to realize real quickly that BT Maxis are wearing no clothes. And I have heard all but one. And it is true. I mean, I think you had one after the interview saying he wanted to edit some out because he realized that he had painted himself into a corner.
Well, and then you get into, is it honest to perfume the pig? It's like, if I have, 1 million followers and they trust me to shoot them straight, and then, some random nobody proceeds to fillet them, that's bad for business. And so my intent was not to make these guys look foolish, but as you've seen or heard with the episodes you saw, I'm like, okay, you're just making assertions that are factually incorrect. And I compromise my relationship with, people that listen to me if I don't call those to account. And it's a point of friction. So I've been contemplating that. I'm sure we'll make the right decision eventually. And in the meantime, we'll keep recording them.
Excellent. Okay. I have one last question for you, Max. You understand what a BHAG is, right? Big hairy ass goal. What is your BHAG with Epic Cash?
Yeah, so Epic is going to become the world's money. It is a better gold than gold. EUSD is a better dollar than the Federal Reserve note. And so between Epic and EUSD, the two sides of the yin and yang, we have the complete solution for money and currency for everybody in 2028 with 128 megabyte blocks pumping out every 10 seconds. Which Moore's law will actually outrace that, we think. So this might be conservative, but that gets us 1.1 billion transactions a day, not just Epic, but also fungible tokens. So doing a lot of what Ethereum and Avalanche and Solana and similar systems do, as well as NFTs, stadium seats, movie tickets, parking tickets, insurance contracts, bills of lading, property deeds, you name it. And so our goal is nothing less than to essentially create a better woods. I'm writing a book by that title as kind of a counterpoint to the Klaus Schwab, Agenda 2030 vision. If you don't want to eat bugs and be dependent on state handouts to keep the lights on, we've got about 6 years of work to do so that we can remain sovereign and maintain independent flexibility for financial maneuver.
Excellent. Todd, I just have one last question for you. What shape is the color purple?
Height mismatch.
No, my question to you is what gets you up every day regarding Epic? I mean, what drives you with Epic? What are you and your team working on with Epic that we might not know about? Just give us a peek at a little bit.
We want to make Epic superior money.
Okay.
Right. I want Epic to be a superior form of money. And the best way to have the best way that I know of, and this is very engineering philosophy, to have other people want to use your stuff is just make it really good.
Right.
And that's the challenge as I see it in terms of what the tech team needs to do. If we just make Epic really good, then we make the decision a lot easier on people to choose to adopt it. And that's what we wake up every morning and try to do. And there's more that's required, but that's what we down in the engine room can do as our contribution to the community effort, is we're just trying to make Epic really, really good.
Well, thank you. Well, and thank you too, both of you, for investing a lot of time with me on the quest for superior money, as I'm showing here on the screen. Anybody in my show notes, if you want to go down, it is a veritable aggregation of all the important links if you are remotely interested in Epic. And within there is a link to the quest for superior money, where you can download this interactive PDF to where we went through a process of identifying all the key attributes to superior money, and then comparing Epic to Bitcoin to gold to Federal Reserve notes to the Federal Reserve digital credits. And then I have a little section if somebody wanted to put XMR or any other asset in there, they could. And just to give you guys a little tour of it, it has definition of terms of all the key positive attributes. Little message from me, and then on the last page, there's just basically an answer key there for you that you can go through and cuss and discuss. But we put a lot of energy into that, and as you can see here in Todd Lewis's quest and Max's quest for superior money, Epic checks all the boxes except one, and that is widespread acceptance. But that's why I'm here. That's why the community's here. That's why we continue to pound the pavement. Max, I know that you've got a lot of things going with. I mean, we're raising.
Yeah, let me just talk about that real quick.
Sure.
As we come to a close here.
Guys,
so,
guys, I have to drop.
okay.
Well,
Thanks,
we were hoping that you would say that sooner than later, but I love you. Thank you.
You don't have to drop. Just turn the video off. I can't take anymore.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you, Dottie. Okay, go.
Yeah. The way I look at it is we've been laying lots of dark fiber. If you imagine the dial-up era of the late 90s, there was a huge amount of infrastructure investment that had to go into laying the fiber, between this place to another. But then you had that last mile problem. Unless you get that into the apartment building, into the neighborhood, into the box at your home, then you're still kind of stuck. So to solve our last mile problem, there are many, but the biggest one is how do you get into Epic from fiat? And if you have Epic, how do you get out to fiat? And so Freeman Express is something that we've been working on for a long time. The first people will be using Freeman Express cards in Q3 out there in the wild. So the way that's going to work is if you have a Freeman Express Epicurean card and you have some Epic on deposit, basically, then you can spend against that value in fiat. So imagine an equity-based line of credit. So that solves the fiat off-ramp problem to be able to spend in stores and online. You'll be able to do ACH, PayPal, WeChat Pay, wire transfers. There's 22 different payment methods and many dozens more that we are working on. There's actually about 200 ultimately that will support in the fullness of time. If you need to send fiat payments out, you can do so in 17 countries. But then we also have a logistical problem on how to get money in. So for that, we have gift cards, in-store gift cards. So next to Applebee's and Olive Garden and Xbox and iTunes, you'll be able to hand the grocery store clerk $20 or whatever and scratch it off, and boom, you have crypto on your phone instantly. Coinbase is about 2 weeks to process their full cycle. So Freeman Express is one of those things that solves the last mile problem that should unlock the ability for people to do transactions. The global payments and financial processing intermediaries involved in moving payments extracted 1.9 trillion in fees from the global economy in 2021, and Epic and the USD together have the chance to take that down to essentially zero.
Just got a question. Any non-KYC trade with Epic, Max?
Yeah, so VTEX is non-KYC. It's veet.net, x.veet.net. That's the primary trading venue. You can also buy non-KYC on Stellar X and PancakeSwap.
And you can download the Vite wallet. It's the Vite, VIT, multi-chain wallet.
Yep. And also the Stack wallet. So if you want to do trading on BTC, ETH, or Tether, you can do that on VTEX using the Veet wallet.
That's right. So you can acquire your Epic on the Veet exchange. You can download the Stellar wallet and transfer your Epic from Vite to the Stack Wallet. I'm sorry, Stack Wallet. And so you're on the native blockchain, or you can go to the GUI wallet 4.0, and then your Epic is visible. So you can trade on the native blockchain, and you can get into it non-KYC. But our last mile strategy is non-KYC is going to be important for a lot of people, but there is a huge number of how many people, Max, who don't worry about that, and they're happy to be able to go through KYC.
Or one man's bug is another's feature. So if you are a regulated financial institution, then maybe it's outside the bounds of your policies and your risk controls for your business. Also, you know, theft and fraud, and when things go wrong, what are your tools available? So to enable people to opt into surveillance, for those people that that's a feature rather than a bug, we have the E1 wrapped Epic solution coming. So with E1, you'll be able to wrap your Epic into an ERC20 token to ride around on Avalanche or Binance Smart Chain or Ethereum, Phantom, Moonriver, Polkadot, Solana, Tron. Those are the initial ones that we're targeting. So really enabling your Epic value to ride around other places. And of course, as a transparent token on Ethereum, it becomes visible, and all of the chain analysis stuff that people want to do can be done there. So you can opt into surveillance if it's the best fit for you, and you can also opt into privacy and anonymity if that best meets your needs.
Yeah, and H agnostic, if you have your stuff on TradeOgre, as long as you convert it to BTC, you can transfer it over to the Vite wallet, and then you can go into there are two sides of the Vite multi-chain wallet. One is the wallet itself, and the other is the trading floor, if you will, and you can acquire your Epic there. If you keep your Epic on the Vite wallet, that is not surveillance proof. If somebody had your address, they'd be able to tell how much Epic you had in your wallet. But you can send it to your GUI wallet or Stack wallet, and then you're on the native chain, and it's poof, be gone. So you'll want to do that. But that is the easiest way to get what you have on TradeOgre, convert it to BTC, get it over into Vite, and then go wild. And right now, it's actually pretty cool. I think somebody came in last night with like 2.5 Bitcoin and bought everything up, which is kind of cool to see. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I just know we are, from some other discussions. People are starting to wake up and pay attention, and I will maintain that people are gonna brag about acquiring Epic Cash under $10 very, very soon. So,
well, I made a public commitment back when we were under a penny that my diamond hands were not gonna release any until $1,000.
Yep.
And I'm proud to say that I've stuck by that. And now that might even be conservative. So they definitely will brag at buying under 10, but that will also be the case under 100, 1,000, 10,000 and beyond. There's only 15 million Epic. Epic is basically a blockchain that stores the Bitcoin song. The Bitcoin Core version of that is essentially a CD-ROM where each copy is $20,000. And there's 19,000 of them on the network. So we are much more scarce. We have 4 million less. Epic is basically a Blu-ray because it's upgradable and will keep getting better. Whereas the CD-ROM is frozen in time. So ultimately, long term, I think whatever the dollar value of BTC is, we probably get to parity, and then that becomes a floor as we take over from BTC. So imagine that there's 19 million real copies of the Bitcoin song on the CD-ROM, but then there's also another 25 to 31 million bootleg copies out there that people are accepting as just as good for their purposes. Because if I have a paper BTC,
and Citibank will accept that as a margin position as collateral for my trading book, then that's actually better than owning main chain coins, which I can't borrow against quite as easily.
Max, do you believe that there's going to be a transfer of value sooner than later from the BTC blockchain to the Epic blockchain?
I do.
Why?
Because I've been talking to movers and shakers in the old guard that are actively discussing, the mechanics of how that all will work.
Thank you. And for those who didn't catch that last 30 seconds, I would encourage you to rewind, listen again, and meditate on it, and acquire Epic while you still can.
That's what Todd's trader bros on Wall Street would call alpha.
Right. Because it's not if, it's when, and it's starting to happen. Not investment advice, but it's us being good folks, just trying to give you some keen insight. So
we were trying to tell them at $1, trying to tell them at 50 cents, 25 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, 1 cent. You can go back to 2019 and we've been entirely consistent in what we say, what we do. We just keep putting one foot in front of the other every day, and success accumulates like rust over time. We are definitely getting there.
We are getting there. So cool. All right. I'm very happy with this. I think we covered a lot of ground here. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Everybody, if you are new, please come visit us on Telegram at t.me/epiccash. That's kind of our greeting lobby, and we can direct you from there based upon what your interests are. But we have an amazing community, a really amazing, helpful community, and just come get involved. As Yoga says, just come, acquire some Epic, put an oar in the water, and help us row. And it's a whole lot of fun being part of this community, and we are a community of volunteers. So Max, thank you for investing time again. I have no idea how many hours you have invested in this show, but I am sure grateful, as I know are all of our over 3,000 subscribers. Yeah, we finally broke it. But yeah, this is good. Everybody, please, Epic Cash Friday, noon Eastern time. Please come back and join us. It's going to be good as always. But we have a couple of special things planned for Friday. So mark your calendars. Please hit that like button if you haven't. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, because sometimes I go live without letting anyone know. And that's it. Max, you have anything else?
Just as always, it's a great time to be a part of the Freeman family. And so as always, I encourage people to join t.me/epiccash. That's our main community. And participation is open to everyone. So even if you go buy one coin and you say, hey, this is pretty cool, I want to get involved. There's translation, people doing art, documentation. If you want to help, reach out to any admin or DM me, and we will get you plugged in. Everyone can help in some way. So Epic is not just a passive investment like buying a share of Tesla stock and hoping Elon does a good job and you make some money. Right. It's a participatory exercise. And so the time investment that you and I have made, and Todd and Yoga and everybody else, we are putting not just electrical energy into the blockchain through the proof of work, but we're also putting, human capital through our applied cognition and our efforts.
Yes, our blockchain is very slippery because all of the sweat equity that we have put into it. So, all right, everyone, have a great rest of the day and evening.